On Take It to the Bank, you'll find ways to get out of debt, solve your credit card problems, how to make and stick with a budget, simple ways to save, buying or selling a home, and many more financial matters on Take It to the Bank.
Hi, my name is Cordell Thomas, and I am so glad you're here today. We're talking about a variety of things that I think will interest you. One of the things that we're talking about are the top 10 financial difficulties, top reasons for financial difficulties that we all come across. And today we're going to look at one specific item, which is living beyond your means. One of the key things that most people don't think about is one of the major ways we think about money. How do you think about money? I was interested today, over the past couple of weeks, I think it was on February 28th, that I found this article. What happy people know about money? What happy people know about money? And if you read the article, which I can actually provide for you if you'd like to get the information, is they don't look at it in the same way most other people do. Money is not the important facet of life. It's the happiness that the money or the financial situation that those people in, the security they probably have with their finances, gives them, the happiness that it gives them. So they spend their money, they allocate their money for the expenditures that they have, but they don't worry about the money and or where it comes from. Many of these individuals are not wealthy. They indicate specifically in the article that these are not wealthy individuals. If they need more money, they can go out and make it if they need it, but they're living well within their means and they are happy and they travel and they do what they need to do with their money to make their happiness exhibit itself in how they live, what they do, their philanthropy. A very interesting read, which takes me to a verse that we should all get very accustomed to. It's in Luke 12, verse 15, and it says, hey, take care and guard against greed. Life does not consist in the abundance of one's possessions. It doesn't really make a difference how much you have. God doesn't look at that. He looks at your countenance and looks how you are using the talents that He's given to you to use. And that may be in your support of philanthropy, the support of nonprofits such as 3BN, and many other organizations that are providing a service to our communities. What we do is provide financial literacy training to at-risk youth. We provide it to adults, and we try to provide them information, useful information, that they can benefit from and utilize on an ongoing basis. What do happy people know about money that we may not, that you may not? And I think it's something that we need to begin the process of discussing as we dialogue about this issue called money. There was another article that came out that I'll remind you of too, is sent, I think, around the same time, that wealthy people are more likely to cheat. I guess, what does that mean? I mean, just from a negotiation, they may mislead the truth. They might take candy from a child. I mean, these are little things that they talked about in the article. So wealth does not make you the greatest person in the world. Wealth takes a certain level of integrity, and it takes planning to get to that point. But do you have to be wealthy to be happy? Well, based on the previous article, wealth is not happiness. Happiness is not focused on money. Happiness is focusing on using the time you have to utilize the funds that are available to do things, to go places, to enjoy the life that you've been given, and to give back by sharing with others the wonderful benefit that you have in Christ. And another benefit that people don't think about is when you're not worried about money, then you relax, and then stress does not become an issue, which is what we are talking about. What is the biggest stress in life today? There are about 66 stressors that are exhibited from external factors in life. What are they? Well, I'm not going to give you the full 66, but the top 3 have everything to do with money. Number 1 is finances. The number 1 stressor in life is finances. That's key to understand. The number 2 is work environment. People are stressing out right and left about their work environment, and they don't know how to deal with it. People are having problems with they're focusing on getting the next promotion. They're willing to climb over everyone to get that promotion. They're willing to lie, steal, and cheat. What I say, lie, steal, and cheat to get to that next level in their work environment. They're willing to do whatever it takes, and it creates a lot of stress. Other things that are associated with work is transportation costs that are now going over $4.50 in California. People are traveling long distance in California. It's costing them more to get to work. They have to get to work to pay for those costs, and so now they're focused on the money to help take care of the expenses. Remember, happiest people in life are not focused on money. They're not. The happiest people know what they know about money, and how to use money is key to understanding what you can do. So that is number 2, is the work environment. And a lot of things associated with the work environment include transportation, getting in the car and making sure you're insured, making sure you get there safely, the stress about getting to work and getting home at night, and those long commutes that people have in the California area, as I'm aware of. And then, of course, the third one is personal relationships. If you don't communicate in your relationship, if you have financial difficulties in your relationship, what is the top cause for divorce? Finance. Finances is a top cause, and you can see it getting involved in every different facet of our lives. The top 3 issues, the top 3 things that cause stress are finance, work environment, as well as personal relationships. And if we can figure out a way to get around all of that, we'll understand our capacity to be in control of our lives and understand how we can be at peace and enjoy that life that we're giving all the more. Now, what we're talking about, number 1, will be living beyond your means, and this will talk through several different elements to include the ease of access that we have to consumer credit. It'll talk about advertising that is hitting us from all different perspectives. We'll talk about the lack of financial education that most people don't have, and distinguishing between your needs versus your wants. This is a very, very important topic to talk about, because many people don't want to address it. People don't want to talk about it, and people feel uncomfortable dealing with it. But we will talk about it, and I ask you to engage with me. At the end of the program, we will have information that will provide you an email address as well as a website that you can go to if you want to provide feedback or ask questions. Write those questions down as I go through the program and send them to me, because we're always interested to find out what your thoughts are, what your concerns are, and how we can be of benefit to you in future programs. Okay, so we've gotten that out of the way. So let's begin the process of talking about this issue called the first of the top 10 reasons why we have financial difficulties. This first one is living beyond your means, living beyond your means. There are lots of things I can tell you about living beyond your means, but one of the things that I think are critical to understanding about what it means to live beyond your means is the fact that people overspend. It's a simple word, overspending. We spend more than we have, and that has a lot to do with you as a single individual, you as married couples, you as an individual that's going towards retirement, you as an individual that have medical costs. Now, in many different aspects of our lives, we think about those emergencies that could come up and make themselves available. What could those emergencies be? Well, we know we're talking about transportation issues. We talked about that. Those are critical because we have cost of living that is going out of the roof. We can't, if we're not budgeting and understanding where we're at, we are setting ourselves up to be in the capacity of overspending and spending money we're not supposed to. What other things can cause an emergency? Well, a breakdown of a car, a medical emergency, getting in a car accident, and all of these things cause stress in the work environment, And at home, you also have those specific concerns when you're looking at a broken water heater, and we need the extra funds to pay for those things, but yet we haven't taken a step back and looked at what we do with our funds, what we do with our money, how we track our money, and understanding how we evaluate where our money comes from and where it goes. If we have an understanding of where those things are and how these things impact our lives, then we won't know where we're going on the roadmap of life. So if we're planning to save $5,000 this next year, we need to sit down and plan that roadmap to $5,000. And I ask you all to sit down today and begin the process of assessing your debt. Where are you right now? And then, of course, creating that budget. What is a budget? A budget is simply your income, subtracting your expenses, and then you have a number. That's your budget, basically. Your income minus your expenses. That gives you an idea of where you're at. It starts the process of developing a number of where you want to be, your roadmap, where you want to go. If you are in a negative situation where your income is less than your expenses, then you have a concern, and you need to start looking at how you can take out those elements of your expenses that can help you bring you back in line. For example, do you really need to have cable TV? Do you need to have satellite TV? Can you cut that expense and use something a little less expensive? Do you need to spend $135 a month on your cell phone? Could you get rid of a landline and just go with your cell phone? Can you cut expenses in specific areas that will generate a little bit more income or the stability that you're not spending as much money on a monthly basis? So a budget is critical. Assessing your debt is critical. Knowing where you're at is critical, and that means you need to have that type of budget. Now, when you get experienced in doing a budget and you get experienced in figuring out where you're at and tracking your expenses and getting your roadmap in place to saving $5,000 or $10,000 a year, then you begin to understand why people who are not focused on money are happy people. They're not worried about the money. They're not worried about what they do with the money. They enjoy the benefits and the blessings that God gives them. They're not necessarily wealthy. They just utilize their money and make sure they're not spending more than they have to spend. I know of people, I've run into people, for example, an older lady, a more mature lady who lives out in the Midwest, has said that in her ability to support a nonprofit organization, she does something that we don't even think of doing during the wintertime, but she shuts down different portion of her home and to save that expense on the gas bill to heat those portions that she doesn't necessarily use, and she uses that savings to maintain her support of a nonprofit organization. It takes that creative mindset to say, I may not make that much, but what I do make, the widow's mite is a story that comes from the Bible. But what I do make, I'll make it useful to the use of Christ's work. So therein is the first step. Take a look at where you're at and make sure that you're in line with your roadmap and your budget, because your budget will be different than everyone else's. But it takes you taking the time and looking at where you're at and where you want to go. There are many things we are going to talk about today, but I'd like to make you aware of a couple of things before we move forward. The number one thing is, I got this in the mail, major cause of heart attacks. Christmas. Avoid Christmas. Oh, well, we can't do that. Christmas comes every year. But the statistic is this. More Americans die from cardiac arrest on Christmas Day than on any other day of the year. Doctors have long speculated on the cause for this holiday heart syndrome. Guess why this occurs? They blame it from cold weather to financial issues, family stress. What are the top two reasons for financial stress or for stress in general? Finances, work, and family. That's it. This is what the cause of. And then, of course, on Christmas Day, the best day of the year, People are dying because they're stressed out about how am I going to repay that debt? How am I going to take care of all of these things that I'm trying to make everyone happy with? And we end up making people sad because this is a crisis that most people don't think about. Avoid heart attacks. Simply by planning. Planning is key. And so we take a look at distinguishing between your needs versus your wants. What is a need? What is a want? This is a simple kind of question, but it can go into many different directions because many of us think that we need certain items. I remember I was saying to my wife way back when we were first married, I need this. And she, of course, with her psychology, she's saying things like, do you really need it, honey? Is it something that is that important to have? And is it really a need? Because do we need it to survive? Think about that. Is it something that you need to survive? The things that you need to survive are shelter, food, clothing. Shelter, food, and clothing. That's it. That's really it. Everything else is a want. And we can pretty much think that a car is a need because you need it to transport yourself to do work, the necessary work. Yeah, we can begin to talk about those other elements of needs, but when we look at a need versus a want, take a look at if it's something that we need to put on the table, keep our roof over our heads, and making sure that we are in a safe environment. That's what we do for our kids and for the family. So we make sure the mortgage is paid. We make sure that we have the clothing in place. And you don't necessarily have to go out and buy new clothing. One thing I really liked about my generation is we went through that phase called the grunge look. The Gen Xers was the type that we didn't really care about how we looked. You dressed in jeans and you dressed in T-shirts and you went and did what you had to do. The millennials are somewhat of the same. It's not about the look, it's really about who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. You're not really focused on the clothing, but the clothing is kind of important also. So you make sure you maintain the needs associated with that. Now, when you even go and buy clothing, ask yourself 3 questions. Is this something I need? Is it necessary? Or is it something you want? Do I need the clothes? Or do I already have 5 pair of jeans at home in my closet, so I don't really need it, but it's something I want because it's a trend. People are buying it. I see all the friends with it. Our kids come back and talk about that all the time.